Hey everyone, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to do another reading journal update. This time it is for February, which was an incredible reading month. Absolutely incredible. Wide range of different books and a ton of favorite books. And I even listened to an audiobook, nonfiction, which is not something I normally do. So really great month. I am starting with adding the books to my year of books, and I hope that I aligned them up correctly. I guess we'll find out later on as I maybe get to the second row. I don't know, but I'm hoping that they're lined up compared to the left and the right. I added all the books to this little spread, and then I had to open the flap to add the last two. Now I'm going to add the year in review favorite for February, and I forgot to stamp February, but if I had to pick one favorite, and that's it, I would pick Flawless. Flawless was absolutely amazing, and my friend Jen Boom, Mrs. Boom Reads, believe that's her name, she recommended it, and I'll leave her Instagram. She's amazing, and I've known her for years. Now I add the books to my shelfie, and I almost have the first shelf full of books. I only have to add 3 more. So I'm just flipping back to the year of books. That way I can get the titles correct. I'm always worried that I'm just going to forget a title or something like that. Okay, so flipping to the next one, Goodreads challenge. Now, I knew that this was going to be kind of tricky if I did not do like an even number of books, and I didn't. I did 11. So I'm going to fill in 2 full squares and then 3 of another one. And I'll just have to adjust my stamping accordingly. So I'll be able to stamp February on 2 of the boxes, and then I'll get the smaller February stamp in this same stamp set from Everyday Explorers, and I will go ahead and use that to stamp just a little bit of the February. I turned the stamp sideways and tried to stamp, but because of the coils, it got a little smushed, but really not a big deal. And then over on the other side, I stamp a little bit of the February, and it turned out pretty good. I just had to make sure the paper was going to be covering the challenge sticker portion because I didn't want my stamp to stamp on there. So yeah, turned out pretty good. And I picked a pink salmon color, which I loved. Okay, so for my goals for 2023, I had a great month. I was able to fill in 10 books for the square number 1. I read another graphic novel. I read a Goodreads winner, which was Hidden Pictures, and I read a nonfiction. And for the letters, I added H, Hidden Pictures, and T, 2 wrongs make a right, and F for Flawless. So, like I said, really good month. Now I'm going to add in some check marks for the books. And I think I've mentioned this before, but picking just one genre for a book is really hard for me. But I'm doing it. And I also added up at the top a category called adult because I don't have that stamp. That stamp wasn't in the stamp releases. So I just added it for myself so that way I know. And I read a horror book too this month. So cool. Okay, for Read Around the USA, I read Half Broke Horses, which was absolutely incredible. I actually listened to it, and it is takes place in Arizona, and 5 stars, amazing. One review compares the woman to a modern day Laura Ingalls Wilder, which I totally agree with. I just found the stories of the author's maternal grandmother absolutely fascinating. I cannot believe the amount of things that she went through and survived, and just a really interesting book. So for Rate the Romance, I think had 3 or 4 books, but I couldn't find them on my desk. So I have Real that I'm doing, and I forgot to do the rating, but it's a 5-star black, white, red cover, and I'm pointing to that I need to get the neurodiverse lead, non-autistic, and then cowboy romance. For the 12 books, I read Sugar Daddy and also Flawless, and I just highlighted it with a gray marker. So checked that off, and now I'm going to start working on my calendar for February. And I always like to flip back because it's not quite stuck in my head yet, my overall design, and I want to try to keep things as cohesive as I can. I am trying to do this calendar really fast, so I wind up messing up on the right-hand side box and putting the box too low, but that's okay. It's gonna probably look a little wonky, but oh well. I'm also trying something different for this month in that I'm using some scrapbook digital pieces that I cut out with my Cameo die cuts from an Ali Edwards Stories by the Month kit called XO. So that's going to be really fun because of course I went with a Valentine's pink lovey theme. So I'm counting out my boxes over on the right hand side, and you can see I am going to goof up in a second and be like, wait a second, what did I do? But it'll all work out in the end. I just have to grab my jelly pen and then kind of try to white it out. And then one of the things I also wanted to use this month was some of my book die cuts that I showed you guys when I was putting together my reading journal. So I pick out a bunch. I'm not sure which ones I want to use because like I said, I also have those Ali Edwards die cuts that I made. I decide on shush, I'm reading. I want to say shush, but it's shh. I'm reading with glasses, and then a big one that says I love books, and it has like the pink colors that I really want. So I will use those die cuts, and I thought about continuing with making my clusters first, but decided to go ahead and finish up the calendar. I've mentioned this before, but I don't stamp the days up at the top because it's just so small, I might as well write it. I went with a pink marker that was too bubblegum-ish for me, so I'm going to go over it with a second marker to make it just a little bit darker. Like, I just have a hard time with bubblegum pink. I don't know. I'd love to know in the comment section, what colors do you have a hard time with? I know we've talked about it before, about colors, but I just find colors so interesting. Like, what colors do scrapbookers and journalers like to work with? For me, always green. It's always green. I love working with green. I've written down the dates now, and now I can start to work on my clusters using the pink grid washi tape. I got this washi tape set on Amazon. I think it's linked in my Amazon shop, but I will check. And I use it all the time. Like, it has all the colors, and I'm obsessed with it. It's so simple, it's so easy, and I use it all the time. So you can see this is where I brought in some of my die cuts from the Ali Edwards kit, the Happy, the XO banner, and I also made some really small 0.75 inch circles with a red paper and also a black journaling card. So I just clipped those together in Photoshop Elements, and I was able to cut them out with my Cameo. So a really fun trick and way to use my digital scrapbooking supplies in a different way. The I Love Books die cut goes front and center over on the right-hand side, and I'm Reading goes over on the bottom left. I have a big stamp from Ali Edwards that says February, so I bravely use that. I'm always worried I'm just not going to get a good stamp impression, and I did this time, so yay. I'm going to stamp 11 for the number of books, and then I grabbed the XO stamp kit or stamp set, and I stamp "Ah yeah, lots of love" for this. It's a super, super tiny stamp set or stamp phrase, but I went ahead and used it, and I like it. I also used one of the hearts in the stamp set and sprinkled that throughout. I thought about doing a border of the lots of love for this, but it just wasn't going to work. So I messed up a little bit on the stamping, but no big deal. The month started off with a favorite author book, Homecoming King, Penny Reid. I absolutely love her books and can't get enough. The next book I read was the horror book called Hidden Pictures. And you guys, I thought I was going to be scared and unable to read this, or that it was going to be boring. But you guys, I flew through Hidden Pictures. It's going to be a favorite spread this month, but I absolutely love that book and found it so, so good. It was just, I can't say enough about it. I also read Hester, which a lot of people have been talking about. It's like a take on The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I don't know. It was okay. I also read Someday Maybe, which a lot of people are also talking about. And for me, that book was sad. It was really good, but it was sad and heavy, of course, which is what I expected. But still, it took me a while to get through it. Also read Two Wrongs Make a Right, which I adored. It was lighthearted. It was sweet. I couldn't get enough of it. And it'll be a favorite spread as well. I ended the month with Sugar Daddy, which was a recommended book for my 12 Books, 12 Friends. So lots and lots of great books this month. And yeah, I love reading. It's the best. And I'm totally into audiobooks now, you guys. Half Broke Horses got me hooked, and I just can't stop listening to audiobooks. I also listened to one over the weekend called Beauty and the Baller, and I love it. It's a really good way to ignore my kids. I mean, my kids are getting to the age where they're really independent, so it's okay, right? It's okay. All right, back to the reading spread. I did my line for number of pages, and it is 3,600. The Storygraph app was not liking the audiobook for Half Broke Horses, so I kind of had to figure out my own statistics a little bit with that. I added in genres of horror, romance, mystery, grief, historical, graphic novel, and nonfiction. So a really great range of books. Now I'm going to add in the 3 lines to do the special categories, and I'm going to grab the Iris stamp set from Carrie Bradford. I think I'm going to use this stamp set throughout the whole year, just like I did last year with Feed Your Craft alphas, and I think I also used an Everyday Explorer number stamp set throughout the year. So I'm going to do that again for some consistency. And the categories that I picked were challenge. I read 5 challenge books, and another category was audiobook, which is 1, and favorites, 4. I had so many favorites this month, you guys, and I want to make a special spread for all of them, but I know I'm not going to be able to do that, so I'll have to think about it and see how I can document all my favorites. Okay, here comes the tricky part for me, making a pie chart. I know I can do this, and I tell myself I can do it. I first divide it into quarters because that's easiest, and then I need to make one big section for the main section, which is emotional, and then I have 4 smaller sections and then another bigger one for other. So I wind up with six different categories that I'm going to go ahead and include. And like I just mentioned, emotional is the biggest one. So that's the second month in a row that I have emotional as my biggest category. And I'm just doing the best that I can as far as dividing it up. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, but I still absolutely love this pie chart. And I'm so glad so many of you recommended that app Storygraph because I love how it keeps track of my statistics, unless it doesn't like the audiobook. I don't know what's up with that. Like I mentioned, the Half Broke Horses. It doesn't like that book or the audiobook. So, but I'm loving how it keeps track of the different genres. It keeps track of my pages and all kinds of different statistics. I've tested a bunch of my markers so that way I can do a fun color scheme in the middle with this pie chart, but also keep it very February feeling. I've got some reds and pinks and a salmon and teal, and it's just turning out really, really good. I love it. I love this pie chart, and I love making my reading journal. So I'm filling in the last little section with the blue, and then I can fill in the different, what each of those colors mean. So the pink means emotional, the red means reflective, the teal is mysterious, and then the salmon is lighthearted, and then the brighter red is funny, and then we go to the last one, which is blue, and it's kind of the other section, the other. Now, I don't always agree with some of the emotions that Storygraph gives some of these books, like Someday Maybe was in a funny category. I do not find Someday Maybe funny at all. Not at all. So I don't always agree with the tags for the books in Storygraph. I'm drawing the books for paper and Kindle, and next month I might even include a third box and make these boxes smaller so that way I can do audiobooks, because I'm actually already on my third audiobook this month. So like I said, I'm loving audiobooks right now. I did 8 paper books, 2 Kindle, and then of course the 1 audio. I'm going to stamp all the stats now and totally goof on the A, but since I have extra paper, the extra grid paper, I can go ahead and stamp it on the grid paper and then cut it out, and you won't even be able to tell that I goofed. Now, I stamp each of these like twice because, like I said, I don't know if it's this paper or what I'm doing, but it feels like I have to stamp the letter twice in order to get a crisp impression. So if you have any tips, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know what I could do differently, because I feel like I'm pushing correctly and I'm trying to get my best crisp impression, but it's not working so well. So that's why I just do stamp it twice. And there you go. I will fussy cut out the A, add it on there, and then I'll find some stamps that I can add to the spread to make like the little clusters. It's like, I want to say the pattern making stamps. So I grab a heart from the Carrie Bradford's stamp set, the Iris, and then I grab a little circle stamp from Everyday Explorers, and then Studio Calico, just one more chapter. So it makes a really fun little cluster with the 3 different stamps. And I decided to use this blue ink. I wasn't sure if it would match, but I tested it and it matches close enough. And I also tested the red ink and went with a candied apple ink, which I love. Now I'll work on the right-hand side where I can add all the books. I did the books a little bit smaller this month so that way I could fit them all. So it is going to fit because I want to make sure that I have a little section at the bottom to do the average rating. So I'll have 4, 4, and then 3, and I'll be able to stamp the rating and then do an average rating down at the bottom because the Storygraph app does that for me as well, which I really love. So just adding in all the books, and I have to adjust some of them so that way, because they're a little smaller, it seemed like the width of them was not matching the My Rating stamp set. So I just put it in the middle of that stamped My Rating, if that makes sense. So I just made sure the book images were centered over the My Rating. So yeah, it worked out. Real was the romance book that I read this month, and wow, that was a spicy, hot romance there. So that was a fun one. And then Flawless was a favorite romance, and I cannot wait to read the second one, Heartless, which was also recommended to me by another book friend, Christy. And I'd also love to know what you guys are reading right now. I'm listening to Midnight at the Bright Ideas bookstore and reading Landon and Shay, a romance. I'm going to finish up this spread and this whole project with the cluster at the bottom. I stamped read. My average rating was 4.45. Like I said, a fantastic month of reading. I'm going to add in the stamping of the hearts. I did it in pink first by accident and just stamped over with the candied apple. Added in the other 2 stamp pieces that I needed to wrap up the spread. And I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing February come together in my reading journal. It just is the best project. I have to add in the ratings for these books, and I choose the soft kind of salmon color. So I'll fill in all the ratings and I'll be done with the spread. And I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing my February update for my reading journal. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a wonderful day. Bye.